Welcome, Beverley. Welcome, Nicole, Andrea, Susan. Welcome to everyone who's watching, and thanks for tuning in. Welcome to the Art and Spirituality Roundtable discussion. Let's start with introductions. Who are you and why are you here? Andrea Currie, let's start with you.
My name is Andrea Currie. I'm a tree artist, or self-proclaimed. I layer small lines and dots in order to create a whole, and I like to think that I grow trees in the process. My process is very mindful in its technique. I usually have the page or the piece, the canvas, flipped upside down. So I'm looking into the work, which I find allows me to get out of my own way, as well as to enjoy the activity and the art of doing what I do. And it's just about letting go and to enjoy the process as much as it is to create a final thing. And my practice started about 8 years ago when my mom passed away with cancer. And it was in that expression that she had physically, in terms of leaving her body, that I claimed in within my own art, where I felt like it was necessary for me to slow down the world around me and to go inward. And in that inward expression, I discovered that stories were coming out in my mind. The day was melting away. I found that difficult situations were easier to manage when I had a pen and a piece of paper in my hand. Those materials have changed over the years, but it's that art of letting go that's helped me really figure out why I do what I do and who I am along the way. It's helped with my profession, it helped with my speech, it's helped with my individuality and femininity. And I feel like art is such a great tool to understand life as well as yourself. And so to be a part of this discussion is quite an honor, because I feel that, especially now, it's important to know what that means to go inward and not necessarily to be so focused on the finished thing, but just to know in that process, I'm going to get messages, I'm going to get teachings, and I'm going to feel better about who I am in the journey. So I like to think that trees being my medium and my speech have helped me with that. Everyone has their different focus, but there's something undeniable about being still. And I find when we're in nature, we're able to really harness that by just watching, observing, breathing, and just being still. Thank you.
Susan Lapp.
Hi, my name is Susan Lapp. I resonate an awful lot with all of your words, Andrea. You put them so beautifully. Sometimes we can't do that as artists. I also, like you, paint very intuitively. I paint the stories from my insides. My art has always taught me so much about myself. And so because of that, my art changes often. But there's always something very, very personal about them. And so I am a very spiritual person, not in God per se, but of nature and life itself and people and communication. And I paint to my intuition, and whatever comes out, that's what I create. So you're right. In the end, right now, we're sitting here in this world of COVID-19, and to be able to be completely fine with staying in a house for 17 days, it's okay. We can go out for walks, and I can Skype and Zoom and talk to my family and friends. And I think that it's a very special time in the world right now, because people are connecting differently. They're not just connecting saying, hey, hi, do you want to go for coffee? Do you want to be busy with me? No, nobody can be busy anymore. And so you're connecting very personally, and maybe that's spiritually also, that we're connecting with other people's souls and understanding how we all feel as a collective consciousness.
Purposeful connection. Nicole Bishop.
Hi. So my name's Nicole, and I would say for me, like what everybody has said so far definitely resonates deeply. I have always had a fascination with religion, but a connection to spirituality. And then that comes fluidly for me through artwork. Art has been something that has really helped me at my best and my worst times, which in turn has kind of made me a more spiritual person, through that process of just like finding myself. I feel like art has really been helpful for me in terms of I would say like religion made me ask questions and art helped me answer them. And that is something that I really, I turn to in so many ways. And, meeting other artists and hearing their side of things. Like, I guess I'm just a curious person by nature. And I guess the gray areas are kind of what I love the most, is the black and white, I guess, kind of leaves a wiggle room for asking more questions. And I'm interested in people's interpretations and all of that. And I'm really happy to be a part of this conversation and get to know all of you.
Thank you. Beverley Frosch.
So I'm Beverley Frosch. I'm known in the areas of Blue Mountain Medium. For me, what you've been talking about so far touches on one of the questions that sometimes I'll ask clients. I'm not only a medium, but I'm also look at life lessons and what the purpose here of our soul is. So many women get it to a point in their lives where they honestly don't know what makes them happy anymore. That was everybody okay? And every once in a while, their loved one will stop me and say, ask them the question. And I have this question I will ask people every once in a while, and it's always, and I don't, it's very few and far between I ask this question, but I always say to people, if you could wake up tomorrow and do anything that you want, and it has to truly fulfill your soul, and it doesn't include money, and it doesn't include another person, do you have any idea what that would be? And 99% of the people can't answer that question. And what I find fascinating listening to the artist speak so far is you found your passion, what drives your soul, what fulfills your soul. Whereas so many people in our population have no idea. And this is such a different side of the fence for me to be on. I'm usually on the other side of the fence with people. So this is beautiful to hear this. So thank you.
Well, thanks. Thank you everyone for being here with us tonight. And I'm Sarah Filion. I have the Matilda Swanson Gallery in Clarksburg. And I to describe myself, I like the 4 C's. I would say that's probably how I brand myself is creation, connection, community, and color in whatever way or shape and form that takes. Hence why everyone here that I'm looking at your faces, it's exactly what that is: connection, creativity, color, and community. First question. Let's dive right in. How do you define spirituality and what is your relationship with it?
Oh, that's a loaded question, Sarah. Can I go get a glass of wine?
Well, let's dive right in.
I'll be right back.
Whoever wants to start.
I need to make notes, so I have to write the question down so I can understand it. So just let her go last.
Ask her first.
Okay. How do you define spirituality and what is your relationship with it? In 2 minutes. 2 minutes or less.
I will try. I think I'm the oldest here. I will try. I think I live in the world of constant spirituality.
You do. I agree with you.
Thank you.
That's why you're here.
Okay. Well, but it envelops my mind most of the time, because most of the time I'm delving into psychology and myself, and not psychology, that's the wrong word, myself. Andrea, I know your mom died of cancer. My mother died of a car accident at 15 years old. But before that, she was institutionalized, actually put under huge treatments of electroshock therapy, to the point where she was turned into a toddler in the 1960s. And I'm now in the midst of a class action suit to have her properly acknowledge what they did to her. And so forget my life being kind of crazy and emotionally draining all the time. Because of that, I have found a stillness, walking in the woods. I talk to whoever is up there talking to me and listening to me. That's my spirituality all the time. It's in me. I can't help it. And in the last 2 years, I have gone even more into finding out who I am. And my art is the one thing that has given me lessons, peace, understanding, um, truths. And that to me is all just, without spirituality, without that, I don't know. I don't think I would be a very good person. Not mentally stable, I don't want to be a person who just goes, hey, you want to go for coffee? Let's go. Let's keep going. Go, 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 go. I can't go all the time. So to go inwards for me is spirituality, and I'm there an awful lot.
Can I make Susan, you're so beautiful. I get distracted easily. So with my phone, I'm focusing on who's ever speaking at a time. So you just spoke to me. Hope you don't mind. You just, and in that connection, what I also want to say, it gave you all that things, plus it gives you income, it gives you a return, it gives you a connection with the people who buy your work, as well as that conversation that goes on when you're out of the picture, when you're out of the room, and that's hanging on their wall. It becomes that kinship. And I feel, even if you don't necessarily get paid financially for doing what you love doing, when you have that connection, and I trade a lot of my art for different things, because I feel like that barter system is going to elevate what I do on such an even better level, because now I'm connecting with that person who needs it, who wants it, who's appreciative. And that comes in so many different forms. We can talk about money, we can talk about different forms of affluence, but I just feel with that acknowledgement within yourself, I feel like it elevates it on such a more level, where it's just not about you anymore. It's about the peace, but it's about that conversation that started with something that was inside you, and now it's a physical, tangible thing. And for me, that bridge, and I'll just keep the bridge going, with my own vision of spirituality. To be spiritual means I have a relationship with myself. It means I'm willing to have that conversation. I'm willing to figure out that it's not about me, that there's something else going on. So it's the observations that I see with I'm thinking about someone and they appear. It's the signs that I see in the numbers, in the animals or the people, and what I'm constantly seeing on a repetitive basis, where I know that if I am asking, the answer will come to me. In order for it to come to me, I have to get out of my own way to receive it. And for me, it's very meditative. My art is very spiritual. It's very meditative. I'm doing what I love doing, and in that practice, I'm letting go of the need to, have to, should do, and the noise, the going for coffee, the brunch, whatever you need to do. Yeah, I allot those times, but I also know I have to be present within myself many times a day. And I have found throughout my journey, in order to get there, I have to find that every time I pick up a pen, it's not just for me, it's for a question that I'm asking that I didn't know I needed. And I feel like that was the question you asked.
You girls are so lovely. Love it. So good. Nicole? You look like you were about to speak.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
I keep forgetting I'm on video. I'm just like listening to everybody, and it's just like, oh yeah, people can see me too. No, I find it so interesting listening to other people's relationship, and yeah, and just their definitions of spirituality, because it is such a personal thing. So like, going inward, that really super resonates, because I find the moments that I'm my most connected is when I'm kind of like in my own, almost like in my own head, really kind of thinking and putting things together and receiving messages. And spirituality for me is definitely so much like I resonate with the note of it being like in nature. I feel very spiritual, connected to everything natural and like living. But then I also find moments like this very spiritual, when people are kind of bearing their soul, you know, like you can see somebody for who they truly are, and like what they think, their innermost, you know, relationship with themselves or what have you. And I just find that, you know, that connection, I know Sarah, you mentioned that word as well, of like, you know, connection and community. I find those very spiritual as well. So I think my form of spirituality, or my relationship with it, comes from a place of, I guess, gratitude is maybe the biggest part of it, and just trying to be present, I find as well. And yeah, that connection, that creativity, anything that's kind of like in flow with energies going on around, whether it's the people next to me or what I feel like I'm getting like messages from the universe, or when I'm connected to nature. I just find that almost feels like a hum. I don't know how else to describe it. It's like that hum feeling of everything's just kind of in the same tone. I don't know if that, I hope that answers the question. I feel like that was kind of everything makes me feel spiritual. But yeah, it's like rawness, I think, is when you see those little moments of like the universe kind of coming through, whether it's from a person, from nature.
Spirit, and it's I love listening to everybody's definition of spirituality. My definition of my own personal spiritual journey, because I still feel it's a journey till the day I die from this physical body. I'll never ever completely understand everything about our higher selves. So for me, for my spiritual journey is about me being able to connect to my higher soul self. That's more connected to the higher universal perspective versus more of this heavier, denser world that we live in, which we call Earth, right? So for me, I'm always, and nature and the water are just stepping stones for me to make sure that I stay grounded so that I can tune in and keep that vibrational state, like they were saying. So, and it's so important because that vibrational state that Nicole was talking about is so true, because we have to have a certain vibrational state to be able to make that connection to stay in that space. And I've learned to dial the volume down on my analytical left brain, the what if, could have, should have brain that talks smack to us all the time. That, you know, it's our fear-based brain that 98% of the time it's wrong. So, and that's what I love about listening to everybody is you're already making that shift into that creative brain, which is where you're grounded and in your right space at the right moment in time. And I spend most of my time in that space, but I'm not an artist. I've learned to spend my time in that space because I don't like spending time in that left analytical brain, because it really makes me feel sick. It makes me feel not well. It's a very different vibrational state, like Nicole said, and it's it makes you unwell. It's an incredible feeling. So I don't know how else to describe my spiritual journey. It's what it means to me, but it's something that I work very hard at every day, and I'm never ever going to know everything about it, and I'm okay with that. You know, I'm okay with learning the life lessons. I'm okay about the always hitting those. It's not a fluid time in our lives, and every day is a journey, and I'm okay with that. One of the biggest things about the spiritual journey is learning not to take things personally, and just keep moving forward.
Good lesson.
You know, and that's been a big one. You know, and it's like I almost vision myself like a ski slope. I just let it come in, I don't take it in, and I just drop it off and I keep going. Because there's a lot of things that sometimes we're just catalysts in life, that we're just in that moment in time for maybe somebody, our partner or a child, to be present to help them learn a lesson, but we just happen to be there at that moment in time. And yet so many people take it on so personally. And I don't do that. I'm just like, I understand this isn't my lesson, and I let it go. And it's all about the healing, right? So I look at things very differently, but right? So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I love all the different perspectives. It's great here, and everyone's sort of echoing the same thing as well, right? Which is great. Similar plane, same plane.
The one common thing we're all hitting is the same. We're all hitting for that vibrational state, right?
Yeah, so that kind of leads to my next question. It's a bit of a two-tiered question. Is art a meditative / channeled process, or do you think it's purely skill-based and technical. And I wonder about the similarities between Bev and Nicole's process in terms of the medium and the tarot cards, and Susan and Andrea. Do you think there's a similar source or channel or plane that people are pulling from?
I think a true artist knows when to pick up the book to study and knows when to pick up the brush to express. I feel like my journey started off solely with feeling, and as I've gone on and taken courses for my own professional knowledge as well as interest, and the more I study cross-curricular approaches using my background in literature to help fuel the story aspect of my pieces, as well, like I said, taking courses on and off through different professional institutions, AGO, OCAD, U of T, whatever I can find to better myself as a person, which translates into different materials I'm picking up. But life isn't one way. There's so many different influences that help us along our journey that I didn't really get into art until after I learned about crystals, until after I learned about energy, and after I learned about everything has a vibration. And that was a part of my picking up, putting things down along the way, as I realized that I don't fit a box. I fit in this fluid space. And when I know that, I'm not going to say yes to one thing and no to another. I'm going to know that they're all going to make its way into my work. So if I'm having a bad day, I'm going to create a piece of work that reflects in that expression. I do abstract painting. Nobody sees those really, because that's part of my bad day, where I find that my painting strategy is a lot different than my pen and ink strategy, because when I'm doing my abstract work, I'm throwing that paint down. I'm putting that energy out there. I'm physically exhausted, versus when I'm doing my technical pen and ink work, I'm consciously knowing that I'm getting to the journey and it's making me feel good along the way. Both are a feel-good method, but the technical approach is so different, and I'm loving the fact that I don't have to choose. Each one is going to represent a different state. And so my final answer is no answer. Oh, you artist.
Well spoken.
I think I'm just gonna kind of jump in too. It's like I think, and I guess I forgot to mention I'm a tarot reader at the beginning when everybody was introducing themselves, but I'm a tarot reader, and I know, like, for me, learning that process, it was a matter of like learning the cards. So there is that technical aspect, but there is the intuitive aspect as well, and because I went to somebody to learn. I had my own relationship with cards before being formally sort of like involved, I would say, in it. I had my own practices, and, I journaled with cards and I created with cards, and then actually became a reader, or took that step to become a reader. And the lesson that I was kind of taught from the girl who I learned from with tarot was that tarot is 50% the cards and then 50% intuition. So at a certain point, you just kind of know it, and then let that be the guide for the person sitting in front of you. And I find that that's so true. It's like, a card could be in a different, like in the same placement, and yet mean something totally different in a way for one person versus another, depending on what their question is or what they're going through or just who they are. And I think that, with you talking about like that technical aspect of art versus that emotional side, I think it is always kind of both, right? Like you let your skill set and your hands be that tool, but your emotional side, or what your spiritual side is, or that expression, what you're trying to convey, is guided by the technical side. So I think I would say it's like a 50-50, where, you can have those like emotional practices, but then the end result, will come through differently from somebody who has a certain skill set versus another. Not to say one's better or one's worse, but I just think of like, like actors learn their lines and read from a book, and, you go over it over and over and over again to the point where it's just in your head. Like you, hopefully anyway, you just have that kind of flow where it's, you just trust that the memory work that you've done is there. And when the lights go on, it all comes through. So I would say that there is, like, you know, in terms of the end result, on a technical standpoint, I mean, every artist would execute differently, again, based off of their medium or their skill set, whether they've been trained or not trained. And I think, I know for myself too, it's like sometimes I found taking art classes from like that creative side almost like got in the way a little bit, I would say. Like I was in some aspects, especially like with photography, there's so much technical side that sometimes I know for me, I can get lost in the technical of like, oh, the lighting's not correct here, or like this isn't right. And then you lose that intuitive side, you lose that creative side being lost in the technical. So I would say ultimately, I mean, I like that kind of end of like my answer is no answer. But I think it's very much like it depends on the person. And I would say like the relationship, when you see a piece of work that speaks to from somebody's soul, like you can see the artist in the work, that's where it's like a 50-50 for me. Because I feel like you can see when it's purely technical and it might be beautiful, but it's like, where is the soul in something? So I guess that's kind of my answer.
Good answer.
Love your answer. I love your answer. I could put that into my answer, which could be very short and just basically say that the difference between technical and spiritual, or what was the question? Let's say the question for people. Right, between technical and process driven versus intuitive and creative driven, correct?
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, I love that. Like your analogy of the actor who has memorized all his lines, but he didn't copy Meryl Streep and do the play exactly like Meryl Streep did. He had to put it into his own self. And so I've actually always been rather afraid of looking at another artist's work and thinking, oh, I love that, I want to do that. Like I don't want to do that, because for the exact reason that you just said, I would lose my soul. Why would I want to copy something else? I might like it, but why would I want to do it? It's not me. So I would never want to find sort of a process, and I just have to trust myself, as you say, my memory, my learning of my style, you know, color compositions. I think I've always been really beautiful with my colors. I don't have to worry about it, but it has to be an intuitive painting or I don't want to do it.
That's beautiful.
We will not compromise on authenticity.
No, we will not ever. Thank you. No, no. Then you know, no.
Yeah.
I don't think that those paintings touch people in the same way that I want to personally touch people when they look at my art, right? I know that people get very emotional when they look at a painting that somebody's soul is in there. You don't know it, but they feel it. They feel something from it. And that's art to me.
Yeah, I like what everyone's been saying so far. And Nicole, you tapped onto it, where when you take a course, you get lost in the technical aspect. And I would say that's very much me. I can perform very well academically, but it hinders my creative and intuitive side. And I find that I just decide to learn it all by experience and by gut feelings, following my intuition. And I end up in a better position, or on a better track, we'll say, or than the latter. And I really struggle with, I admire people who can combine both successfully, because I don't have that ability whatsoever. And I just have come to terms with the idea that every day's a new day and I have no idea what I'm doing, and make it up as I go along, and keep my fingers crossed and trust that it's gonna work out. Yeah, that's my.
It's liberating, don't you think? It's
Yeah.
liberating to
It's
approach your.
it's liberating, yes, but it's scary too.
Yeah, it's
Especially when
not
you're
liberating. It's not liberating if that's the way you've always been. Liberating is, you know, you
it's
were
how
one way
going.
and then you
Yeah.
become this way. We've all been this way our whole lives.
Yes,
I've
it's
never
true.
planned a day in my life.
True.
I just mean too, when you have that opportunity, and I'm thinking of looking at that blank canvas or that blank piece of paper that, you know, I don't know what's going to happen. And I find that I have an idea maybe, but I don't always know. And it's going to grow as it grows. I just mean it's liberating to think that living that way is one thing, but also approaching how you have your artistic practice that way. Where if I'm doing a commission and it has to look a certain way, okay, I'm going to be held into that fixed final thing of what that person wants. But when I approach a piece just for me, that's when the artistic explosion happens, where it's you know, I didn't know that was in me. That's a new, you know, new thing.
There's a definite difference in flow and energy from a normal painting, we'll call it, or creation, than a commission, because you're boxed in.
Is the commission more of an expectation? The person who's commissioning you has an expectation of what it needs to look like. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
And that's kind of similar to when I do readings. And I love when I sit down and say to people, you know, here's how I can work. I trust spirit more than I trust the living. I feel that this is where we need to go with your reading, but I'm open if you need to, you know, you to go other directions as well. I want to make sure I answer all the questions for you today. But I've learned that the best readings are when people come with no expectations at all and no expectations of who they want to connect with. And there's such soul-fulfilling, heartfelt readings that it gives me the ability to get right into a deep connection at a higher soul self, not only with the person sitting with me, but it's also allowing their loved one to kind of merge in with my own energy that comes through, because there's always a reason that person that comes through, because it always resonates with what's going on in that person's life at this moment in time. So when people don't, it's almost like I'm not being commissioned, you know, in that sense where I'm just flowing with whoever comes through and needs to say whatever they need to say first, rather than saying, oh, I've got your brother here and that's who you want to speak to. Great, no worries, then we just go that way, right? So because that's much more structured, even though I trust what I get, it's a little more of a process. It's a little more work to get into that space until that person is completely merged in with my energy. So it's a different take on it as well. And I learned very early when I was working with my mediumship, the trust part of it, and that's been resonating with a few people that they've been saying. The minute I learned to trust it and stand in front of a large group of audience and just trust whatever comes is what's needed at that moment in time, that was a huge, huge one for me. You know, to stand up there and have it a blank canvas, and I have no idea what's going to come out. There is nothing worse than standing in front of 100 people and giving a message and not one person can take it. And that happened. But I trusted so much that I knew it fit somewhere. And I said to them, please sit back and think about this. I know this fits somewhere. And during the intermission, somebody put their hand up and said, I understand who this is for. I can connect with this person. He made a phone call. We got her on the phone. It was a friend of hers. And it's just that trusting the process of it, right? And I love, because I have to be in that, everybody's explained that, being in that creative space of no judgment. And I have to be in the exact same space when I do my work. I'm just not putting it on paper. I'm not putting it on canvas. I thought about this before.
That's fabulous. You know what I love about these? If you had a writer, a theater, a dramatic person, a medium, an artist, we would all feel the same, right? We all have the same process. I love that. It's not like, oh, I'm an artist, I'm so different. No, I'm also a musician. It's the same.
I talk to dead people. You know how weird that is?
It's the same process. I love it. So do I. But I'm not a medium. right? Like the arts is not just an artist or a musician. We're all like that creative brain, it's basically right side, left side. Well, I think
Did
that
you
all has to do with,
You know how many people struggle with that? There's so many people that are so left brain that no matter what you say to them, it's impossible for them to get out of that space. They're
yeah.
so
Yeah.
critical of themselves.
You can't penetrate it.
You can't.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating to see the contrast in that, and then the parallels with art and spirituality, and that relationship. And we've sort of just we dove right into this next topic, right, which is the relationship with art and spirituality. Exactly.
I'm sure that
Y'all just tapped into it.
I'm sure that we all
Perfect.
know somebody who is close to us in our life, who is completely left-brained, who doesn't understand us, and maybe, I don't know, I won't say the word little judgy, because right now I'm on the world being, non-judgmental and compassionate, and forget all those things, right? Like, we're not doctors right now, right? Are we worth anything right now, etc., right? Left brain, right brained, creative or
I'm a trained emerge nurse and ICU nurse. I retired. I've put myself out there that I will go back and help, and nobody's contacted me, and that was 2 weeks ago.
I think what the arts
Hello?
and what I think what the arts do and what Bev and Nicole do, it's all healing. We are all serving a purpose to heal.
Thank you, Sarah.
Whether it's through our art forms or people sitting in front of you wanting that closure from a loved one. How is my husband cheating on me? Where is my life going to take me? What decision do I need to make? Or, oh, here's a beautiful painting, and they get lost in it. And Andrea, your paintings have a story. I stare at them all the time and notice something new, and I know you too, and I see your story. I see your soul in your art. And Susan, the same thing. Susan's much more abstract. Andrea, you're abstract in a certain way, but it's still, you still know you're looking at a tree. But there's so much in the tree and the roots, and it's so both are soulful and healing. They offer stories, which is again what Nicole and Bev do. So I'm fascinated with the parallels of the two what do I call them? Organizations?
Mediums?
Vocations? Medium.
Yeah.
I like that. Oh, you're good, Bev.
Mediums. I just heard it. I'm like,
the two mediums. Brilliant.
Art's a doorway. It's a window. It's an opportunity to look inside somebody else's perspective, their view, as well as, like you say, take a little toe dip into their soul. I find that the more we ask questions about why we like a piece, we also ask questions about who is that artist? What do they do? We want to know a little bit more about maybe why they created that piece. But even just having this platform right now to connect with all you lovely ladies, it's about starting that conversation, about opening up. And what are we doing right now during this unprecedented times? It's about having these conversations. It's about offering our insight. It's about offering our technique. It's about offering a little bit of something else, because we get so caught up in our day-to-day, what we have to do, what we want to do, that when we're able to actually step into somebody else's life, whether it's a fictional movie or a book that we read or whatever that outlet is, art is that same. So we're making movies, we're writing scripts, we're creating beautiful things for your wall, so you're not just staring at the wall, you're inviting yourself to take an opportunity to explore. That's what we do.
Brilliant.
A good segue question, just based off of kind of the territory that we're going into, like with our own relationship with our work, whether that is art or spirituality or cross in between, is just does art itself inspire your spirituality? Does art, like somebody else's art, like how does that inspire or affect, not just as being the creator but the receiver? in that realm? Like, how does that influence?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's a good question. My goodness.
I know.
The receiver. How humbling is that? Oh.
What's the thought
Well,
of you?
to a lot of, sorry,
So, I'm sorry. Go ahead. My apologies.
to many people who see my art, many, I would say 70%, because they stop to look. If they don't like my art, they'll stop at Andrea's, right? Right? I
Or
mean,
both.
everybody, you know,
Or
pardon?
both.
Or
both.
the fall back and forth,
Or
because
both, but
they
you know
don't
what I
have a
mean,
space to
right?
be
Like
in.
maybe you know, you like a different style of art. But if somebody stops at it, I have so many people who either love it and embrace the emotion that it has created in them and thank me for it. They don't have to buy the piece, but it emotionally completely affected them. The other half of the people are afraid of their emotions and they run. They have run from my booth because they're so afraid of what they felt by looking at a piece of art.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing to watch, and I can accept both now. Before, I used to be like, did I say something wrong? Like, what happened? No, I didn't say a word. It's just how somebody can take those emotions and either embrace them or be scared shitless from them. Sorry, that wasn't very, or scared from them.
I'll bleep that out.
And that's because the art is not a process or a formula. It's some piece of me that went in that's, you know, dark or chaotic or beautiful, but it's amazing. And I couldn't predict a person, you know, I can't say, is that person going to embrace the emotion or run from the emotion? It's amazing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Period.
So
You got it, girl.
was
No
there a
need.
question there? You asked, you know, how people are affected by it. Anyway.
I hold space for a lot of people, I find, in terms of whether they're wanting me to navigate through their emotions. Like, why did you create that so I feel this way? That I get that a lot.
Really?
So what space were you in when you made this? And then the conversation goes on. And then if they're comfortable, they'll let me know why they asked that question. Or if they're very open already, they'll let me know right away what they felt. And I found that what's helped me a lot when I'm doing shows now is that I have a scientific element. I have an engaging, non-intrusive, I have a magnifying glass with my work because I use such a fine tip pen and I have a lot of happy dots on that page, that having that magnifying glass allows me to continue on the conversation for someone who doesn't want to necessarily have an emotional conversation, but I got them in my booth. Why? Because I had an element where they could be inquisitive, but it was a magnifying glass, something so simple as a tool for them to feel better about how they can view my work and receive my work. And then we're able to start a conversation. But before then, it was really hard to have a conversation with everybody. It was only the people who wanted, like you said, who were willing
Oh, yeah,
to
you can't
sit with
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't converse with everybody.
But we
Yeah.
tried.
No, I don't anymore. That's the beauty of just doing this for so long. When somebody doesn't want to, it's great. You know, it's wonderful. If they want to, I can't sell a piece to everybody who walks in my booth. I can't try. I don't want to try. That's not.
Mm-hmm. Bev, you probably have the similar situations happen when people come to you, and I'm sure some people are wide open and others are very closed off. And how can you read them, right? I'm assuming it's just coming to me now that it's
Exactly.
a very similar process.
Exactly. That's right. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Open or not open.
Because what happens is I just read for a lady yesterday on Zoom, and I knew before I connected with her that I was going to be hitting a wall with her. And for me, my client isn't the one sitting in front of me. My client's the one up. So once I make that connection, I will tend to look away from somebody and I just go because And every once in a while I'll say, do you understand that? Does that resonate with you? Do you, can you validate this for me, please? So I'm keeping them engaged as well. But I trust 100% what spirit gives me. I may not always understand it. And I might have to look at the client and say, look, they're teaching me something new. Could you help me work with this and understand this so I can add this to my own library? So it was a huge trust for me. And when people have a preconceived idea of how every medium should work, right? Just like Nicole, how every tarot card readers read. So some people are just very technical. They're just going to drop the cards down and go, and the best reads are when they're intuitive, right? It's like art. When you're intuitive and you feel it from your soul and it's a part of you, it just resonates. It's who you are, and it resonates love. Like, I mean, at that point, right? And everything I've learned to, I set an intention that it has to be healing and it has to be out of a place of love, or I don't want to do this work. If that makes sense.
I love the parallels happening here. I mean, Bev, I'm an art virgin. Why here?
What do you want me to do? Because I don't know art.
Yeah, exactly. But this has been such a beautiful experience for me, listening to you lovely ladies and from your speaking your truth and your coming from your heart and soul, and how the incredible parallels where it's, again, Bev, you tapped into it, the mediums, right? Whether it's it's art or spirit. I'm sure musicians, it's the same. It's all creation, and it's all, we're all in tune with that source, and it's ours how we're choosing to share our voices, share what we're getting, right? It's just yeah, what's the word for it? Just our craft. It's
our flow,
or the energy, however we choose
soul purpose
to speak. Yeah, it's great. Wonderful.
Well, and I think too, like what's so lovely about both, like the other parallel is like how much we all need each other. It's like, I know for myself, like when I have readings with people, they ask me about my relationship with the cards or other readers, and it's like, I still see other readers, because like, like sometimes we need, like, no matter who you are, whether it's, as an artist, it doesn't mean that you probably don't look at other people's art just because you also create it. Like we all need that influence from each other and that flow from each other and that inspiration and insight from each other in order, like that's what I mean. It doesn't matter like how long you've been doing something. There's room for everybody in both. And that's where I think it's, a really, as long as we view it that way, because I know competition can sometimes come into people's minds, and it's just about acknowledging that, like, as Bev was saying about like that being that hill and like having things come up and letting it go, because there really is a need for everybody in both fields.
That community, right? That's why we're here. That's why we want to learn about like I find that when I'm reaching out in a new space, who do I want to go with? Well, I go with people who've been in that space before, but also knowing that I don't want to create all pieces of art. I just want to create my art. And I found that when I first started this journey, I had my first show with several other artists because I didn't have that community necessarily all reaching where I was living. But I also knew that when I stood together with like-minded souls, that I would have the confidence, and then I would also fake what I didn't know in order to get to the next step. And it became a mentorship where I was helping new people come through. They're helping me learn how to hang. And it just became a great opportunity to be vulnerable, to be excited, to not know, and it was okay. So for me, community has been the fiber of what it means to be an artist, whether we do those crazy long shows like Artist Project, or you do the One of a Kind show, Susan. That's amazing. I don't think I can last that long. I mean, 3.5 days seems to be my max of being in public, being out there on display. And I just think that it's especially now when we think about, social distancing, that doesn't mean community goes away. It just now creates a different hurdle on how we make it. And opportunities like this are everything. So thank you, Sarah.
Well, thanks for agreeing to be part of this. There's a reason behind you were all chosen to be here tonight, and there's purpose behind that, and because I've gotten to know all four of you, I just thought it would be a lovely connection and opportunity to create community. And again, it's creation, community, connection, and with some color. What is your zodiac sign?
Taurus.
I'm a Taurus.
Taurus.
Taurus too, Nicole?
Yeah.
Taurus.
Andrea, Taurus?
What? Are you all Taurus?
Oh no, are you oddball?
No, yes, I'm on the cusp. I am Virgo and Libra.
Okay.
What? There we go. That's
Much
funny.
more Libra than Virgo,
yeah.
but my Virgo, yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're all Tauruses except for one.
Yes, so I knew this going in,
That's
and I thought, I'm inviting Susan anyway.
Well,
She should have been a Taurus. She's more like a Taurus.
I'm
than
the balancer. I balanced you all out. There you go. Oh my God.
Yeah. I just thought that was very interesting. It was a realization after the fact. Like, hey, wait a minute.
It's fun.
What are the odds of that? What does that mean?
Yeah.
usually our Taurus is more, I mean, I used to be like a bull in a china shop. It was my way or the highway and very analytical. And up until about 10 years ago, I'm like, it's not important anymore. Did everybody else kind of go along the same path, or?
Yeah.
Is it
For sure, my way or the highway. I was encouraged to go into the arts, but I didn't think that I could make a career out of it. So I wanted to go more writing, journalism. I wanted to have more of a fact-based approach to life. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to go that way, and that's the way I'm going. And you can't stop me. And I lived that way for good 30 years, and it was great. And I still use a lot of that back in order to make sure my bills get paid. But otherwise, no, I'm wee.
Yeah, so I'm, as you all know, I'm big mouth bossy pants. In a way, it is my way or the highway, but I love compromise, and I just want to make sure everyone's happy and that everyone's needs are being met, and we're all respectful, and there's integrity and open communication, just living life how it should be lived, and accepting of everyone, and having that free spirit, and I've always been I think a creative and free spirit ever since I was a little punk, but I thought a punk. I was a total punk, but I thought I would either be a professional dancer, an actress, or a hockey player in the NHL. Never once thought about visual arts, or I didn't even know what intuition was. It was just who I was, and I grew up in my own imagination, sort of by myself, and who I am now is very much who I was as a 4-year-old. And my family could probably attest to that.
I think you're onto something, though. I think when we really follow our own passion and we find what we're passionate about and what drives us every day, it tends to go back to what made us really happy as children.
Yes, I agree. Definitely agree.
That we weren't forced into that space yet of that left brain. You need to make an income. We were free to play. We were free to be creative. We were free to be true to ourselves, and we weren't influenced by anyone else, usually other than our parents or our close friends at that point.
I fell into the art world, is how I like to say it, and I don't think of myself as having a job, because jobs are viewed as torture. I'm miserable. I have a job. This is something I have to do. I love going to work. I love being surrounded by Susan and Andrea's art. I'm surrounded by art all day long. There's nothing torturous about that. And I love every single thing that I do. And if I don't enjoy it, I don't do it. I say no. I say no, which is a brand new thing and to say no takes a lot of guts.
It's good you're learning that at your age, because I'm just learning that now. Say no when you, yeah.
See, I have that relationship with dishes. I just say no. I am akin to that answer, yes.
All right. Nicole, is there anything you want to add before we sign off?
I'm trying to think. Like, I mean, I resonate with all of the Taurus notes of like stubbornness, check, and like having to learn how to play well with others. Because I remember like all the flashbacks of me as a kid and like all the activities that I loved the most. It was like I loved sports, but then I think it was like the competition aspect of that I really loved. You know, like that kind of like, you know, like that teamwork aspect in that regard. But then I also loved playing with like my art stuff or like Barbies, like all of these things that are very like I can do it on my own, you know. So, and it's just because I remember like this one situation with a friend where she was like dressing one of my Barbies and I was like, no, that's not the right shoes, you know what I mean? Like trying to get, and I've become like, you can put whatever shoes on my Barbies you want now, but at that time not so much. Yeah. So I resonate with all of that, and I think it just comes down to like, I think the Taurus mentality is just wanting a good life, right? Like we're these like earthy creatures of lifestyle, and like we see it a certain way, and that's how we want it because that's what makes us feel good. So I think it's good intended stubbornness, but stubbornness nonetheless. So yeah, I resonate with all of that. And yeah, in terms of like just everything that we've all said, I feel like I feel for me, you know, like we talked about like this isolation and everything. So being able to have these conversations and meet people and see new faces from a distance, social distancing, online, safety, is really, it's a really beautiful way to almost feel like fill up that cup that I think can be drained from situations like this. So thank you so much for inviting me and including me in this. And I feel really like, what an awesome Sunday evening. Thank you.
All right. On that note,
Thank you.
Thank you, girls,
Thank
for
you,
being
Sarah.
here.
Thank you.
Happy Sunday,
And
everybody.
thanks for everyone who tuned in to watch, who lasted throughout this whole evening with us. And yeah, we'll see you on the other side of social isolation at some point.
And I'll be seeing you on your walls.